Squid Boy, a film about dying without actually dying. A film unbeknownst to me at the time, but was likely a reflection of the schizophrenia I would eventually become diagnosed with. All stories at their core are love stories. Not romance stories, but love stories nonetheless. Love is what ties us together and what tethers us to reality. Squid Boy, then, is what happens when that tether perhaps doesn't just get completely cut, but rather never existed in the first place. In today's video, I will be taking a look at my first ever short film I ever made, Squid Boy. But it's important to note that while I am the artist behind its creation, I am not the arbiter of truth on the film. Rather, all I can offer are my own personal interpretations of the events of the work, which I at least think is far more interesting anyway. Now, welcome friends to Squid Boy. Alright, here is Squid Boy. I'm going to do this video as more of an unscripted analysis. I'll be pausing so you can hear me properly, but I figured we'd go through the film and I would pause when I want to, pretty frequently I will add, when I want to talk about something, whether that be like a director's commentary on like the technical aspects of the film, or more so, it'll more likely be like analysis of like what's happening on screen, like thematically. So we're just gonna jump right in.
Hello, friends. What conspiracies are we cooking up today?
So that is a scene, or a line rather, from Aina, whatever, however pronounced it, from Joel G, I believe the YouTube channel name is. Temptation Stairway is like their most popular video and their longest, and that's where the quote is from. And honestly, that short film or series of YouTube videos were instrumental in the development of Squid Boy. I don't think Squid Boy, as it is, would exist without Aina. And that's where that comes from. Now, this next scene little scene you're about to see, I was wondering how I would go about the animals here, how they would interact with the main character. We'll call him Squid Boy, but we'll get a little more into that later. I was trying to think of how they would interact, and I'm like, why don't they just spell it out? So we'll see this. So as you can see, it says hello. And originally, I don't know how I was going to pull this off, but I wanted to do a sort of kind of like cheerleaders, like a pyramid. And I wanted to do the letters like that. And I was going to have like people in either white or black, like bodysuits that would like hold them up, which would be very hard to do. I don't think it would look good. And I didn't have enough people, quite frankly. I mean, this is literally, the budget for this film was less than $1,000. Probably like, the most expensive thing was the mannequin, and that was like $300. So that was like, and the lens was like $350, but we used someone else's camera. So I didn't buy a camera, rent a camera for it. So those two things were the most expensive. And yeah, it was probably like $1,000 in budget. So I tried to, even when I was writing the film, and I think this is a good tip for like aspiring, not even just aspiring film writers, but aspiring film directors, or even producers, is you want to write the film with the budget in mind, which kind of feels like obvious advice, but I didn't really think of that until I, thought of it. The entirety of Squid Boy is centered around the idea of having zero budget, and I wrote the film in a way that a lot of what you could call technical issues could be analyzed as like thematically. Like they're part of the story. They're part of this world. And we'll get more into that when we talk about the color grading that I did myself, which I had literally no experience doing. You can kind of see, I think I color graded this scene, but I'm not sure. We'll get to a more obvious scene in a bit. But I designed the entire story around, like I said, that no budget and the world. Like I made it a fictional, almost a fictional world based around that concept.
Yes. A hello to you. Another hello to you.
Now, observant viewers will see that you can literally hear the tripod move. And this is my first time with a camera ever. Technically second time, but the first time was just like a test stop motion film I made, which you can find on the channel and on my film channel. But this was like the first real time with a camera and a tripod. I didn't really know how to use it, and it was also a very cheap tripod that one of the actors / production managers lent me, and it wasn't great. So that's like one of the things in the film that like I most regret is not getting a better tripod. And even when we were like looking back at the footage as we were filming it, like I didn't have headphones or anything, so I didn't even hear that happened. It was more so like it just happened. I just didn't know about it till in post. And at that point, I'm like, I couldn't really refilm it just because of scheduling and like all this stuff. Like all the people in this film are my friends and family. Like the main actor right here, Squid Boy, is literally my brother. Like there was no professional help at all. And getting people together, your friends or family together all in one place is very difficult to do, especially because it's like an hour drive out to the filming set. So I couldn't really refilm it. So I just had to kind of roll with it. But that's one of the things where I couldn't really fit it thematically into the story. It's just kind of a mistake, honestly.
And of course you. And I didn't forget about you.
That part's really funny.
Wait. Who are you?
So you have the animals, and the frog was a very last-minute addition that my cousin filled the role. She also did the all the drawings, which we'll see later on. But the frog was a very last-minute addition, and I think we're going to get in this analysis to what I think the frog represents in the film, and kind of a part that could have been a little better, but I'll explain why it could have been better later on.
And to you, my dear guest, it's with great honor that I welcome you to the show.
So that was inspired, like that fourth wall break in like Welcome to the Show was inspired by Puelli Meji Madoka Magica, specifically Rebellion, the film. And in the beginning of that film, I won't really spoil it, but like, it's like, oh, welcome to the show, welcome to the theater, welcome to the cinema. Like, it welcomes you into this world, and I think it makes sense thematically in that film. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil it, but I think it makes sense why it does that. And I think in Squid Boy, it makes sense because the main character's perception of reality, as we'll see later on, is very skewed, very shattered. As I said in the beginning, like the little intro to this very video, love is what tethers us, and this film is very much about love in many ways. And I would say Squid Boy himself is not very tethered to reality. So in my mind, the fourth wall break kind of works. Not even kind of, it works. Give myself more credit. And that scene, too, the little scene, was also inspired by Ina. When they raise, like, their hands and kind of fall backwards, which I believe is inspired by a music video itself. I don't remember the song or the music video, but I have seen it before, and I know a lot of the iconography and the poses from Temptation Stairway were from that music video. And that was inspired by it. I was going to have Squid Boy fall over, but with the angles and the camera, it just wouldn't have looked good, I don't think. So instead, he just raises his arms up.
So we see the rope come undone, and the front of the mattress.
And astute viewers will realize that is literally me. I'm not credited in the film, but like, this is me. And some of the dining room scenes in this film, like this one specifically, were not scripted at all. It was more like, just start talking. For this one, I had to be literally in the film to kind of take the helm and like lead the discussion, and like, it's just a funny story. And I had to cut a lot of it out, actually. Like, probably 2/3 of this conversation were cut out because it just didn't make sense to keep all that in the film. So that's me, though.
Chris
Face reveal. There we go, back.
just flies upward, and you hear Wayne. The best part of the video, you hear Wayne going, "No, no, no! Call your dad! Call your dad!" So literally, the mattress and the second rope came undone. So
And that video of Squid Boy was actually filmed like weeks after this dining room scene was filmed, like this part of it. The power of editing. What can I say?
it flies off of the van and just falls onto the street. And it's right in front of us. We're like, we like have to break suit.
I love you.
So in that scene, there is a few things I want to touch up on. Getting the camera to perfectly... Here, I rewind a little bit. Getting it to line up with like these like angles and these proportions with the table probably took like an hour or two. It took literally forever. We had to... This lamp I should have moved, but with the layout of the room, you couldn't without getting the light. And it was important we had the light shining down from both sides to like properly illuminate the scene. But yeah, getting this was just... It was terrible. But that's the mannequin that I was talking about earlier. Very beautiful, very demure. So if we look, I'm not gonna turn it down. But if we look, yeah, I can find it actually. There's a little Easter egg. I'll mute it for now, just because we're gonna. All right, now we're getting there. This took forever too, by the way. What does it even say? Oh, it's just random words. I'm not gonna spend forever on this. I just want to see if I can pause it at the exact right moment. Actually, can't you go frame by frame? Nope, that goes 5 seconds. You kind of saw a flash on screen. It's actually a drawing of a stuffed animal pig that one of the actors drew. I just threw it in there for good luck because I'm schizophrenic. What do you want from me?
Hey. Oh, what's wrong? You don't look well.
Are you feeling okay? Can I get you something to...
I don't know.
Now, my stepmom records. She was the woman at the head of the table. And this is supposed to be her, which we'll get into in a second. But a lot of... not a lot of... We originally filmed the audio for that, like the, oh, what's wrong? Like that. And it was literally perfect. It sounded great. It sounded concerning, but also a little scary. It was perfect. And then I forgot why or how, but we lost that recording of it. And we had to redo it. And the second time, I think she got a little nervous and realized, like, oh, this is a film that's going to, like, be on YouTube. Like, it didn't get any film festivals, but it could have gotten to a film festival. Like, this is a film that's going to be out there. And I think she got a little nervous acting in it. And quite frankly, it didn't sound that great the second time. So I had to play around with the audio and kind of get, like, that distortion. Not in, like, I wanted to make sure it wasn't in, like, a faux, creepy way, like a very analog horror, like, kind of, to be honest, a little cheesy of a way. But I also didn't want to completely use, like, text-to-speech. So I just tried to make it, I spent a good amount of time trying to distort the audio in a proper way where it would make sense. Now, while I'll let the scene play out first, it's not that much longer, and then I'll kind of talk about and break down, like, what I think it means personally.
Eyes, mouth, candy bar, alligator park, slip and slide, cubes, gray, dirty clothes, nails, help, incision, right down the middle, frogs, hanging, I want to cry, 7 o'clock a.m., show, everything, show, all, poem, made, pork chops, and listless service, what does nobody dance for, tap, 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 fives, everywhere, they don't stop, bang, 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 bang.
Bad.
Alright, this is important, we'll get to that in a second. So first off, that, like, super fast rambling is, it's mind blocking, like, thought blocking. Part of the schizophrenic experience is experiencing, and different mental disorders as well, is experiencing a lot of, like, thought blocking. Primarily, it's a thought disorder at the end of the day. Schizophrenia is. Or psychosis as a whole, honestly, I think. And that would be thought blocking, is like all these different trains of thought kind of like ramming in at once. And I can't think of the term. I've said it in videos before. It's not rambling. I'll probably post it on screen, honestly. I can't think of it. But, oh, clanging. That's what it is. Clanging, which is usually rhyming. This case it wasn't rhyming, but it's like kind of that thought blocking almost. Usually in a very vocal way, like it's very external and outwardly apparent. Because people will literally start talking in like rhymes or start talking like in a bizarre way that doesn't make like logistical sense to the normal person. Usually seen in bipolar, but you know, can apply to different things. I'm actually not schizophrenic. Technically, I have schizoaffective bipolar type, which is schizophrenia and bipolar combined. So it even makes more sense now that I included in there. But in terms of the scene we just watched, a major theme, major concept, probably the core concept of this film, aside from love, is disassociation. I believe on the main channel, the one you're probably going to see this on, I said like Squid Boy, a film about love and dissociation. And I said it in my milk inside a bag of milk video, but this feeling of dissociation, it's almost as if like one moment you're with loved ones, but not really interacting with them or interacting with reality or the world. And then once you like, you catch yourself, you're like, okay, I'm actually alive. There is a reality. There is a world. And in that moment, once you actually start connecting and interacting with people, suddenly they become unrecognizable. They become aliens. They become, in this film, mannequins. And it's a very hard thing to deal with. And it's something I've dealt with probably for as long as I can remember. Which, you know, a big interpretation of some comments have had for this film are like things people pointed out as masking, specifically with like autism. And that could be like what the hat represents. It's like a good interpretation of that. And that dissociation can come with masking, because once you take down the mask and become vulnerable with others, like you don't know how to do it almost. I think in Squid Boy's case, it is a bit more like mental illness driven. When it comes to, I'm not going to get too much into it, but when it comes to schizophrenia, a term you should know, it's called two terms actually: self-disorder or obscenity disturbance. And I've talked about it in my milk outside a bag of milk outside a bag of milk analysis, my explain away psychosis video more specifically. One of my longest videos, that one is. But it's this disassociation of like the fundamental self, which I think starts at like the mind body structure, and it's almost as if like you don't have a body. Like a good example would be like if I park in a Target parking lot and I'm just, chilling, whatever. I'm not conscious in my body. I'm conscious 10 feet away from it. Like, I've had that personal experience before. Or a better example even would be like, I've said this in many videos before, my milk analyses included, but like, engaging with the world, with yourself from like a bird's eye view, from a third person, like top-down RPG-esque perspective. That's a big one. Just not having a body that you can interact with the world with, and thus you don't really understand the world or reality. And that can lead into delusions, of course, with like an evil demon controls your mind or your body, which I've had those thoughts before as well. But like the core disassociation, that is a fundamental concept in Squid Boy, and I want you, the audience, to kind of recognize that. So this scene coming up is an important one too. A very subtle one, though. Watch his hat. Watch the hat.
And like we're like just
So if you noticed, I just hit the mic, sorry. If you notice, his hat becomes more like faux color graded. It becomes bluer in a sense, yes, but it looks more fake. And that's where like I wrote the film around that concept and added this little part like a little bit later to go with thematically like the color grading in general. But it's like the fantasy world that he lives in, this break from reality, you can almost call it, that at the end of the day is a very fake place. It's not real. And the color grading, I think, kind of reinforces that fact. All of like the scenes that you should interpret as happening in reality in the actual world are not touched at all in terms of color grading. But the scenes that happen in the fantasy, a fantasy that I don't think he necessarily chooses, but that's for that's your interpretation, whatever you want to decide if he chooses it or not. But that fantasy, that's where like the fake colors come into play. And I try to convey that thematically and structurally through the color grading. So that's why in that, I don't think a lot of people notice that, but that's why his hat gets more blue. Because once he dissociates, he's kind of falling back into that fake world. In the autistic sense, he's falling back into masking. In the schizophrenic sense, he's falling back into the world of like delusion. He's just falling back into the fantasy. And like I said, I don't know if he's choosing to do that. Honestly, I don't know. I really don't. I don't think he is, but like I said, up to your interpretation. But the facts are he is returning to that fantasy. And the hat turning more fake blue represents that. That's why he closes his eyes too. I do that literally all the time. When I dissociate, I just have to I just can't see things. I have to shut my eyes and just like shut out the world almost. Like, if you notice, this is all color graded to, like, a very fake green. You can see the brown poking out, which, like, if you're being generous, you could interpret as like the fantasy is breaking down around him. In reality, it's just bad color grading. Like I said, I have literally no experience doing it, but like I think mistakes like that can be interpreted thematically too. If you're being nice, please be nice to me. I love that backdrop, by the way.
Hello again, friends. So what do I owe the utmost highest of pleasures?
And I think a big question in this film is like, why are they animals? And I think we already in this video, this analysis kind of answered that. To where like, that's what he sees his friends as. He's like, oh, you don't recognize them anymore, do you? They've... You know, the idea of Squid Boy first came about because most of my films even, or my ideas, or even, not videos necessarily, but like films and like books and stuff, the first thing I have is an image. And the first image I had of Squid Boy, I was like, how bizarre can I get here? And I was like, what if they just like wear a bunch of like animal onesies and are like riding on a cart? Or like bouncing on like bouncy balls. Like, wouldn't that be like something? There's something there, right? And I centered the film around that. And I think the thematic concept came in later. Like, the image came first. The story came after. And I do want to make... I'm not going to get into it here because it would take like an hour to discuss it. But... Yeah, I don't know. Oh, so that's actually what a giraffe sounds like, just so you know.
Ah, yes. Thank you for the notice. A most interesting observation indeed.
And this kind of goes back into, like, the thought blocking. Like, they're speaking, I mean, they're speaking in their animal tongue, which is showing, like, I guess the bizarreness of this, like, fantasy. But he's, like, interpreting them as, like, completely different from what they're, like, I guess they're not saying anything, technically. But, like, even if they were saying actual words, like, he's interpreting them differently because his perspective, his perception, his interpretation of reality is so skewed that he doesn't understand what people say. Which kind of goes back to the autism angle, to where, like, you don't really understand social cues and stuff like that. So it's like people will say things within a certain context or a certain framework, but like you won't really understand that context or framework because you have, autism, basically. That's kind of where that comes from. And all of his responses here are also based off Ina, like just that bizarre kind of responses. A lot of this film, I'm realizing, is really based off Ina.
Such honest words.
In fact, I think that's a direct quote from Ina, too.
That'll have to be the next thing on our agenda.
Also, my brother, the main actor, did that face, and I just kept it in. Maybe it's the fourth wall break. I don't know. I just liked it, so I literally just kept it in. More power to me.
Why don't you love us?
I'm gonna let this scene play out in its full.
How do you feel?
I feel sometimes. When I do, it's more than enough.
No. You'd actually talk.
I do need to mention that, though. Sorry. I wanted to omit the name for reasons we'll get to later, but I felt it important to omit the name. And this is Squid Boy's girlfriend. Yeah, it's his girlfriend, and she is the chicken in like the animal circle, whatever, the friendship. And I think slight spoilers ahead, but I do think I wanted this to be the frog, because the frog is the outlier of the situation. And to me, at least, the frog is that last tether to reality. The border between sanity and insanity, for lack of a better term. I don't really like that term. But for lack of a better term, I guess it's like that border. And like I said, it's the last tether to reality. And I think it would make more sense if that tether was the frog. But this, the chicken slash the girl, I call her, was actually my brother's girlfriend at the time. So I thought their chemistry would be much, much better as opposed to my brother and my cousin. Be kind of weird anyway. But I don't know, I just thought the chemistry would be better. So I went with that. And I think you could see the frog as like a more of a symbol almost. And perhaps think of the frog as that one friend when you want to do something stupid that tells you that it's stupid, but you don't want to listen to them. That's the best way I can describe it.
To me.
I am.
And yet you're being all cryptic about it.
Try my best.
Then look me in the eyes.
Why?
See, you shouldn't even have to question something like that.
I know.
I don't think you do know. Honestly. You're trying your best, and I appreciate that. I really do. But I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for you to be open with me.
I know. I'm sorry.
You don't need to apologize. I just want to help. You know that, don't you?
I do.
Then talk to me.
It's hard to explain.
I got all the time in the world.
When I see people I should know very well, it's like I don't even recognize them anymore. Like they're aliens, and I don't know what to do with that.
Okay. I'm listening.
I'm starting to feel like they don't exist. That I don't exist. And I don't know what I should do about it.
See? That's a good start. We can take it little by little. I know it's hard, but you can trust me, okay? I love you so much. And that's not gonna change. Now look at me.
So a few things. I think that scene is the most overt of the scenes in the film and kind of the heart of it. So it kind of speaks for itself almost. But yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. There's a few things I do want to add though. One, I wrote the script very shortly before we started filming. It's actually one of the first scenes we filmed. I'm not sure. And I actually redid this scene too, like right before we filmed it. So literally, I filmed it in this way with like the close-ups. One, because we only had a boom mic. But two, because they had to read off their phones for the dialogue. Like they would read it, and like right after like they read it and memorized it, even just a little bit, we would literally just record it. So that's why it's kind of filmed like that. In terms of this is what I edit, by the way. This is behind the scenes. Many people in the comments thought it was a mistake in the film. No, it is very intentional to show the editing software here. And originally I wanted to do like a creepy analog horror face, but one, I downloaded some apps on my phone, and I didn't know how to use them, and they all looked very stupid. And I think it would have been cheesy anyway if I did that. So I am glad I decided to not do that. But like, this right here goes hand in hand with that dissociation. And I think I said it best in my DDLC video. Not really much of spoilers for the game, which you probably know the game anyway by now. But I'm going to include a clip from that video, a short one, that kind of explains, I think, what is going on here. So stay tuned for that in like 2 seconds. When your friends talk to you, your mind can travel into their mouths, viewing their vocal cords, seeing the physical machine that both creates those wave frequencies and the one that decides which waves to output. You receive it now as nothing more than harsh, bizarre noises that have lost meaning, grinding your eardrums to a bloody pulp, terrorizing your brain with feelings of fear and dread. Alright, we're back. So, yeah, hope you liked it, by the way. And then he just like blankly stares because like he's losing his grip on reality even more than he did at the beginning of the film. And this is very important. So the black text, I guess it's white text, whatever. Oh, so the background is Amori based, if you couldn't tell. But the black text, I call it, is replacing the questions that the girl was saying. And what the black text is, I'm honestly not sure. For me, at least, it's a melding of OCD and psychosis, if that makes sense. Like, it is... At the end of the day, it is a delusion coming forward. A delusion that takes a form as a voice in your head. Not an auditory hallucination, but like... I mean, when you have a thought, you have it as like... a kind of like a secondary voice, I would assume. This is kind of that on steroids. And like I said, the basis of that is a melding of OCD and schizophrenia in this case. I guess schizoaffective disorder or whatever. But that's what the black text, for me at least, is. And I literally, this is from personal experience, I have that text in my head that like talks to me like this. Like exactly like this. And I know even as a child, I used to like swear in my head, and I would see the word as white text on a black screen. Which I said in my OCD, my childhood OCD video, I kind of talked about that. Basically, I thought I would die by God himself if I would swear in my head. So I was very prepared to die because I would do it. Swear in my head anyway. So that's important. That's what I think the black text is.
I don't know.
And he's very hesitant to answer the black text. He's given up on being vulnerable. He's given up on opening up.
I don't know anymore.
Get the mouse. There we go.
Yeah. And they disappeared one day.
Like, he literally believes his friends are gone and replaced by these animals. Like, this in itself is a delusion. It's not just disassociation at this point. Like, he literally does not realize that his friends are even there anymore. And he thinks he's just surrounded by, like, weird animals. So if you look at this, this is the so you have all the super green at this point, with brown spots. The fantasy is breaking down, like I said, if you want to be nice about it. But then, like, when it transitions, you have normal. Not that they're literally just, he's not just sitting there and his friends are staring at him like that. I guess in the film it's like that, but, like, it's not, it's actually happening. But it's showcasing this breakdown of reality itself, or breakdown of the fantasy and the melding of fantasy with reality to create this, like, almost new reality, which I think is a very, very bad thing. You shouldn't mix fantasy with like, objective reality like that. And there's a plane in the background.
I'm not sure anymore.
So it's the girl saying that. It's supposed to be like Squid Boy himself saying it, but, like, the girl saying it, because, like, not only is the fantasy breaking down and melding with reality, Squid Boy's identity itself, kind of hand in hand with that, is breaking down, which we'll get into the next scene. Will really, really showcase that. My favorite scene in the film, by the way. But what was I going to say? I don't know. It's just that breaking down. And I don't think it really worked, honestly. Like, it was supposed to be like, oh, the identity is breaking down. So he's, like, becoming his friends. Like, he doesn't know how to differentiate, because it all starts the mind-body structure. And he doesn't know anymore how to differentiate himself from his friends, because it goes back to that self-disorder, that fundamental disassociation. He does not understand the borders of his own skin. And his association with his friends have melded with his own association of himself. So he kind of sees himself, in simpler terms, like, as his friends, which, again, we'll be getting into in a little bit.
You are everything. This world is infinite. And since you are everything, and since this world is infinite, then you are infinite. Your consciousness will reside in every part in this way, from the blades of grass to the cement paved over. But since you are infinite, you are nothing, a concept with no center.
That monologue, very important to the film, obviously. Very inspired by Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk, as well as the in scene, I think it's scene 4, I call it, where he's talking to the girl, like, having a very real vulnerable conversation. Another line in there is inspired milk outside a bag of milk, outside a bag of milk. So very Ina and Milk games are, like, probably the two biggest inspirations behind, and Evangelion, as it is with, like, everything I make. Probably the three main inspirations behind Squid Boy as a film. And I have to mute this because it gets copyrighted all the time. This is my favorite scene of the film, and it's very upsetting that it gets copyrighted all the time. I mean, it is what it is, I guess, but just imagine there's music. I'll let it play out. So yeah, shout out to my cousin Easton for doing these drawings, as you can see down here. I did the animations, but she did all the drawings. I feel like that scene mostly speaks for itself. Like I said, it's Squid Boy becoming dissociated, not just from reality, but like it's depersonalization as well as derealization. Derealization being an association from reality, and depersonalization obviously being dissociation from the self. And if you look, I'll mute it again. If you look here, he's trying to find his face, his form, and it's interestingly, it's the hat that he becomes. Like all of his friends are wearing it because, like I said, he can't separate himself from his friends anymore. That's how depersonalized he's become. But it's the hat. It's the one thing, whatever it may be, that he's holding on to. And that's why the name is omitted, because that's why I hesitate to call him Squid Boy, because right now he isn't Squid Boy. He is just him. He doesn't really have a name. It's all omitted. We'll call him the boy, I guess. And the boy holds on to this hat. Maybe whatever tethers you, ties you to reality. It could be like a stuffed animal. It could be a concept. It could be, an idea. It could be a memory, a loved one, a person. It could be anything. But it's that one thing that ties you to reality that you just can't let go of, that transcends reality, transcends fantasy, transcends fiction, transcends all of that. Even as he's literally, so dissociated that he sees himself as other people, he still has this is his identity, this hat. Which I don't think is necessarily a good thing. I think you should have a more solidified sense of self than that. But when it comes to certain mentally ill people like myself, it's like, this is all we have. So it's kind of holding him together even as he's transitioning through all these different people. Also, the blurring effect is, it kind of speaks for itself too. And then it's who do you see? First is what do you see, then it's who do you see as he becomes his friends. And then the animation and the drawings are great. Up and down. There's a hint of the song. Also, like I said, I bought... Oh, shit. There. I'll pause so I can talk about it. So this is one mannequin. I had to learn how to, cut out... I don't even know how I did it, to be honest. I literally forgot. It's been a little bit. A couple of years. But I had to, cut out... I don't know. This is one mannequin. I just want you to know. And you'll see the painting. When they move eventually with the stop motion, pay very close attention to the painting. Because it will look very wonky.
Hello, everyone.
even in his fantasy, like he's starting not to enjoy it. Like at the beginning of the film, he's very like jubilee and very like, I think it's a word, very happy in his fantasy. But now it's like it's broken down so much that he's just not about it anymore. This is base 64. Someone decode this, because I literally don't know what it means.
Ah, yes. Of course.
Means something though.
I see you're here too.
And you have the clang in the background of the thought blocking. But like I said, the frog is that one friend who's telling you not to do a stupid thing. If the hat is the one thing that tethers you to reality, the frog is the one person who serves that role. So we'll see what happens with the frog in a little bit. I love, these are just sticks. They're basically crosses to hold the arms up. I think this one was like two like wild sticks we found like tied together with like knots. I had to use those Boy Scout skills because I didn't really remember how to do knots, but I figured it out. Another thing I want to add, kind of unrelated, is the music. I submitted this film to Sundance. Didn't get in, obviously. I would have mentioned that in the channel at some point. But I realized that at the time, I used a copyright-free song. I think it's Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I could be completely wrong. I think it is. But the audio recordings are also copyrighted. So even if the sheet music's like in free public domain, the recording isn't. So an hour and a half before the Sundance deadline, like the last deadline, I literally had to go throughout the entire film and replace the music with copyright-free music. I don't know how I did it, but I did pull it off, and I did submit on time. Not that it really mattered, but, you know. Also, he ended up breaking that mallet, by the way. I just wanted to add that. This was completely unintentional, but because I literally just told my brother to like go wild with it, to make sure these sticks stood no chance against him. And it's interesting, and I noticed this like 2 years later, like a year and a half later, he throws the chicken. And the chicken is the girl. The chicken is the boy's girlfriend. And it's interesting that, like, in this scene, he doesn't, like, he's actively, like, hurting the frog, hurting the other animals, but he throws the chicken to the side. He throws the girl to the side instead of actively hurting her, which I think is a very interesting, a tender moment, even a very sad moment. I mean, this whole scene I think, is quite sad. And I'll talk about it once it's finished a little more, so we'll let it play out. So, I think it's vital to realize that this isn't an abstract way of me portraying the boy literally killing his friends. I think it's more so, at least how I interpret it, it's him violently, in his head, rebelling against everything that's happened. The depersonalization, the derealization. It's him rebelling against that. Like, it's his last shred of self-awareness from the delusion saying, you know, get away from me. I don't want this. And, I mean, at the end of the fantasy, like, there's no color grading, like I've been harking on. And his friends are literally sticks. So I think that's an important thing to distinguish, is, like, his friends are literally sticks. Like, this is not him killing his friends told in an abstract way. I think it's him rebelling against the idea of the delusion. Him rebelling against the black text, almost. Also, I found this frog in my trunk, and I wanted to put it in the film. So I did.
I don't know. I think it's stupid not to.
This is another one of those scenes, completely unscripted. I just told him to talk. I got 5 minutes of footage and then cut it down.
But also, kind of
stupid.
Why? So I don't know.
You're not stupid.
I don't know.
Well, because you said it's stupid now. So
I don't know. It's like, I don't know. In my eyes, it's like aliens.
I don't disbelieve in them, but I don't believe in them, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess aliens, I think, is way more plausible because they're like.
And this is important too. Like, it's the black text. It's like the Matrix. You rebel against the Matrix, but it's like that rebellion is part of the Matrix. It's kind of like that concept almost. And it's like, did you honestly think it would be that easy to rebel against me, to rebel against the delusion? And he's shocked to see his friends because it's like, maybe that's him seeing them for like the first time for who they are. Maybe that's a bright, hopeful moment. I'm really not sure, but he's definitely shocked at seeing them, which I think is interesting and important to know. Also, this is just a still frame. It's so stupid. This is the one thing I wish I would have taken out of the film that I put there intentionally. It was made to be creepy and mirror or look like those pictures of like the whole family at the dining room table that's just staring at you. Like, there's inherent uncanniness and inherent creepiness to that. And I tried to utilize that, and I just think it came out as so cheesy. I just don't like it. It's just cheesy.
The universe is so, like, giant.
It's cool that they're talking and it's a still frame. That's kind of cool. But like this, it's just, and it's not even in focus. Like,
But aliens being real is like a fact. There's no way.
I guess you can't disprove or prove it. The
Don't-
ghost thing, you can prove aliens exist. I totally can believe that.
Well, I guess you can't prove it, but it's just the likelihood that the universe.
and now everyone has become a mannequin. In his mind, his associations with everyone are dead. They're just mannequins. It's all he sees them as. And I think he is finally mentally broke And I don't know if he'll ever recover from that. Originally, it was going to be like a scene where it just like comes at you super fast. But I just thought it was a little cliche to do that. And I started playing around with like the slow approach. And I just thought that worked better. And it's almost like a kind gesture from the main mannequin, I think. I'm not really sure what to make of that. But it reminds me of episode 6 of Dog Me I'm Scared, when Roy is like reaching out to a red guy. In like a kind gesture. It's not like an evil, malicious thing. It reminds me of that. I'm not sure if I interpret it that way. It's just like the position, the iconography, all of that reminds me of it. So that's the thumbnail. And see, this is important. He's not Squid Boy yet. Welcome home, blank, omitted. I think it's Phoenix, my brother's name at base 64. I'm actually not sure. With an exclamation point, obviously. But it's like, he's not Squid Boy. He still has... He doesn't have the frog anymore, but he still has the hat. He's still holding on for dear life to just something. And we're going to see what happens with that. So he takes off the hat. This is him letting go the one thing that was tethering him, not just to reality, but to his own identity. And I think it's the most important sequence in the film, and it's also the most, not confusing to me, but it's the most mysterious to me. I don't fully understand even what I intended with it. It just made sense in my head for this. Which I don't think takes away from it thematically. It's just, like I said, up to personal interpretation. So, you know, my interpretation, at least somewhat, is like he just lets go. That border, like I said, between reality and fantasy, the border between sanity and insanity, is no longer there. The fantasy has fully merged in with the reality, objective reality. And we understand objective reality through the mind-body structure and through our subjective reality, which is through our minds, our brains, our body. And once you let go of the separation between yourself and others, you don't longer exist, I don't think. Very Evangelion, very Freudian in that way. Maybe not Freudian, I don't know. But it's giving up on that. And in doing that, you're fully letting reality and fantasy coincide together. And I don't think this is a good ending, to say the least. Maybe you can interpret it as one, but I just definitely don't see how you could, honestly.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
And in taking off the hat, ironically enough, the squid hat, he has become Squid Boy. Which maybe you can interpret as like the one thing he gave up, the one thing that was tethering him to reality, he fully encompassed that, and that became his entire reality, his entire personality, and then he becomes Squid Boy. Or you can interpret it the opposite way. I honestly don't know. I don't know. My own film is stooping me. And I consider myself a pretty good analyst. So that means it's a good film, I think. Give it a like, you know, whatever. Also, obviously, this scene is very Evangelion inspired. The congratulations scene. That's very... It's the most overt of the references, I think, in the film. But... yeah. I'm going to let the credits roll because I like the music. And it gives me a lot of credit. So I'm going to let it roll. Yeah. There's not much left to say, honestly. Like, that's Squid Boy. If you did enjoy this analysis and this breakdown of Squid Boy, I'm going to be posting... You can go on my main channel and see the... I posted on there. But I also made a film channel, which is exactly 27 subscribers. It's my lucky number. Very happy about that. But I'm going to post the link in the description and in the end card of this video. If you could support the film itself and really sit down with these new ideas that I present and like even if you've seen the film, re-watch the film with some of this analysis in mind and form your own interpretations. Like I said, I'm not the arbiter of truth on this film. I'm just a viewer like you. I made the film, sure, but I'm still a viewer like you. So if you could support the main project, I mean, that would mean the world to me. This is like the best thing I've ever, art-wise, I've ever done up to this point. Hopefully I will surpass that, and I do plan on doing that, but right now, this is my magnum opus. So if you could support that, give it a like, give it a comment, let me know your thoughts on it, on the film channel or on the main channel one. They're both the same film, obviously, so if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. And I do hope you like this, like, unscripted analysis of my own work, and maybe I'll do it again in the future. If I make, if I make more work, but when I make more art, more films, more stuff like that. You can see this almost as like a director's commentary, which went a lot longer than I thought it would, than I wanted it to, but that's okay. But that's Squid Boy. And I think of no better way to end this off than with saying, and as always, thank you for watching.